Welcome everyone to Ordinary Lives. My name is Chris.
And I'm Leah. Tonight is our pilot episode of our Rough and Ready programme, exploring how our everyday lives can fit into God's extraordinary plan.
We are live, so please feel free to add comments and say hello wherever you're joining us from around the country or maybe around the world. You'll also have the chance to ask some questions to our live panel a little bit later on.
Our focus this evening is on students. How you can live your life around campus and beyond.
Tonight, we've got a guest interview from our friends at UCCF.
We will also be joined by a panel of students and graduates who have sought to share their lives with communities around the world that don't know about Jesus.
So you can drop your questions in now about their experience. So feel free to put those in the chat box below and we'll see about asking them those questions in a bit.
First up, we took to the virtual streets to ask some students and graduates about their experiences on campus and their views on mission.
I think out of 7 billion people in the world, probably about 3 billion people.
It's got to be at least a few 100 million.
Maybe even 1 billion people.
500 million.
3 billion?
Adventure, adrenaline, and perseverance.
Perseverance, fundraising, and Jesus.
Abroad, challenging, necessary.
The world, home, church.
I think the main questions that were on my mind were, why does God have me here? How am I going to make friends? And will I fit in?
Who will be my friends? How much work will there be? What will I do outside of my studies?
Would I get along with my course mates and my housemates?
How can I combine my engineering degree with overseas mission? Another one would be, how, God, should I use my spare time at uni because there's so much of it? And thirdly, how am I ever going to feed myself?
Okay, really. Because I saw my friends every day, it was really easy to tell them that I went to church because they saw me go, but it was a bit harder to make it clear that it was a personal faith and not just something cultural.
I think it was sometimes easy, sometimes quite hard. I joined the Christian Union, which really helped to meet other Christians and be able to encourage each other and support each other. Talking to other non-Christian friends on my course or other people that I met, it was quite hard to invite them to church because it was a church that didn't have many students.
Take every opportunity to embody Christ, whether that's by helping out someone on your course or just simply during a game of football.
Number one, I found really helpful to go and check out a whole lot of churches in the first few weeks and then make a commitment to one and set my roots firmly there. Number two, I found it really helpful to hang out with my new halls flatmates a lot, get to know them, take interest in their interests, and say I'm a Christian from day one, basically, and kind of normalise that. And number three, just I found it really helpful, like embracing the amount of openness so many people have to new ideas, including faith, and just there's so much opportunity to chat to people about Jesus in that.
So it's pretty much the same as living out my faith outside of uni, except I have more access to resources and opportunities. So the underlying idea is the same, that I'm living my life with God and following and leading. But yeah, I have more opportunities to do that by inviting friends to events, talking to people who probably have never heard the gospel or never heard about Jesus, and giving out toasties and answering people's gospel questions.
Thanks guys, and we will hear a bit more from them later on.
And coming up now, we're going to go to Lara, who before the Welsh firebreak lockdown spoke to Nathan from UCCF to discuss about the realities our freshers might be facing in this current season. So over to Lara.
Today we are thinking specifically about first year students. And I have Nathan here, who has been excited to be involved. Nathan, can you maybe tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and why you're interested in students?
Sure. Well, I'll give you a step even further than that. My father was originally an OMer, so hence you're on an OM call today. But I've made my home in student work, working with University and College Christian Fellowship, UCCF, working with Christian unions and universities. So I started as an undergrad in Swansea, a good few years now. And now I live in Cardiff, working with Cardiff University Christian Union and Cardiff Met Christian Union, helping them to share the gospel with course mates, flatmates, and everyone on campus, giving everyone the opportunity to hear and respond to the gospel.
Oh, that's really exciting. So you are kind of involved with students day in, day out, and we're going to just ask you a few questions that might help students as they start uni. Obviously, this year is quite a unique year for everybody that's starting uni because of the COVID pandemic that we've all heard so much about in recent months. What do you think could be some of the fears that first year students face as they start in such an unusual time?
Yeah, I think if I was in their shoes, I think it would be about belonging. Normally a freshers week would look a certain way, and this year everything is on its head, and obviously as freshers you come in and you don't really know what's happened in the past, but I guess that sense of belonging, your course will look different. There'll be a lot of online content, which I'm sure is no surprise to you. Socials with societies, they'll all be online. Just hearing recently of SUs that are saying that they're encouraging most prominently that they do online meetings. So you may feel that sense of, how am I really going to get to know someone? So I think that would be a big fear. I think secondly, that fear of just as any fresher, leaving home, starting in a new place, learning whether to choose the meat and two veg or the pot noodle, or whether to mix the whites and the colours and all those kind of things. So I guess those natural fears which come to every year of leaving home, being independent. It's good for you, you know it's good for you, but it's difficult at the time, isn't it, to work that out. So that thing of belonging and I guess that separation feeling.
Yeah, thanks. A lot of accurate examples, I think. What do you think may be some of the biggest encouragements that students will be facing as they start uni?
Yeah, well, I suppose when you pull up into the car park of your halls or the house that you're going to be living in, just thinking of the real amazing opportunity, the exciting opportunity, especially this year, especially with the potential of lockdowns and measures like that, that you'll get to know your flatmates really, really well. And I can tell you that sometimes that's going to be a really good thing. Some of them are going to be amazing. Some of them are going to get on your nerves. But actually working out how to socially get on with them, how to have lots of fun with them. They could be lifelong friends. In many cases, first year flatmates are lifelong friends. My dad still talks, however many centuries on, about flatmates he met in that first year and how he's still in contact. This year could be the biggest year for that. And I guess getting to know people on a smaller scale, perhaps churches, perhaps Christian unions that I work with, we're all looking at how you do things on a small scale, getting to know ones and twos really well, really being known by someone. So look forward to that opportunity that you could be stepping into the next couple of months of finding some of the best friends you'll have for life.
Yeah, absolutely. Find friends, enjoy your housemates, make the most of them, and engage really well with them. Yeah, some of my best friends come from uni. So, yeah. How about when it comes to church? Church doesn't look the same as it used to. You can't just walk into a building and meet some people and get invited back for lunch. by anybody that is willing to have you for lunch like you used to. How would you suggest first years could start to engage with churches, maybe find a church in this online life that is the new normal that everyone talks about?
Yeah, so as I say, working with Christian unions this year, we're doing a big push. We always do a big push on finding churches. Christian unions are essentially societies on campus that are just passionate about sharing the gospel with people, but also passionate about maturing in our faith and pushing one another in our discipleship. So do look out for the opportunities with your Christian union where there will be virtual church fairs, whatever they'll look like, but the exciting opportunities of getting to know lots of different churches. Why not look ahead already or try and visit as many churches on a Sunday as you can. In this online world, there's real potential to do that. But also remember that it's just a shop window, just a snapshot of what that church is like. Maybe there's 2 or 3 out of the 7 churches that you've viewed online that you think, I really like the teaching, I love the sung worship, and it seems like a great feeling as I jump on the virtual setting. How about taking along a friend that you meet from the Christian Union or from your flat who says they're a Christian and stepping over the threshold of a church with someone. At the moment, a lot of the churches in university towns are operating in person in different ways. So do make the most of those opportunities that Christian unions provide and the online platform provides.
So from your experience over the last kind of 6 years working with students, maybe you could think about some of the things that students would like to be prayed for. I wonder if you could give us 3 points that we can kind of all take home to pray for students.
Yeah, so with my UCCF hat on, I'm definitely going to be saying about evangelism. So my first one would be evangelism to friends. This year, as I said, freshers will be in flats with people that they'll have to get to know really, really well, depending on restrictions. They will be in households, in bubbles with people that they've never met before. But that's a great opportunity. What an opportunity in a global pandemic to share the gospel hope that we have, not to despair. So evangelism, sharing their faith with flatmates, do pray that there'll be amazing opportunities, not only to have friends in their flats and lifelong friends, but lifelong friends who will also one day share gospel hope. I guess secondly, evangelism on a larger scale in universities. So within mission and doing those kind of things, there'll be thousands and thousands of students in any given university who won't have a contact with a Christian. And actually the cold contact, the evangelism that is a flyer handed out may not be possible this year. So do pray for the online platforms that students will be able to use in that way. And I guess finally, for those freshers in that belonging, that sense of belonging, belonging to their new city, belonging to their university. But for Christian students particularly, that they would have such a sense of belonging to Jesus, such a sense of his spirit with them and the encouragement of other believers, that actually whatever they face, whether that's a really tough flat, whether that's a really fun flat, whatever, whether their course is really difficult and they've got this Zoom fatigue like we've all had, that they'd have such a hope in their heart, such a belonging to Jesus in their heart, that actually they're unfazed. And that's easier said than done, isn't it? It's not the easiest thing. But we read of people like David that in the despair of people rejecting him and all those kind of things, that he doesn't blame God, that he actually chooses to worship in those moments. To pray that this generation of freshers would be worshippers, belonging to Jesus.
Can you hear me?
Fab. A lot to really go away and think about as you go and start uni or pray for those that are starting
Can
uni.
you guys, sorry, we're just going to test something whilst the other video is playing in the
wisdom
background. Can you
of your years of
guys
student
just
work
take off
experience,
your
Nathan?
cameras for a second? So Do you need to unpin them, Terry? Oh, you're right.
Name is still no.
No.
Number one, meeting so many
Okay.
amazing Christians at church and in the CU who've just been absolute brothers and sisters to me and mentored me through that. Number two, God really challenged my misplaced identities in performance, success, and relationships, and helped me to only hope in Jesus and in Him. And finally, God's brought me through so many tough deadline seasons, exam seasons.
So I came from a pretty nominally Christian country where not many people were living out their faith boldly. So coming to university and meeting Christians who were really passionate about the gospel really encouraged me once again to remember how good the gospel is, to have the opportunities to share that and rediscover the joy of sharing the gospel with others.
Going to uni definitely made my faith more personal. It wasn't just my parents' faith anymore, but it was mine. And also living in a student community in the city centre meant it was really easy to get involved with church groups and Christian Union.
I think starting uni affected my personal faith in terms of growing in my faith more, to accept Jesus as my own more independently.
Being at university has helped me to grow in both prayer and personal reflection, whilst also allowing me more time and the ability to study the Bible and get much more out of what God's trying to say to me.
Thinking people aren't interested.
Feeling that I won't always know the answers to every question that someone may have about God, Jesus, or the Bible.
Feeling of rejection, feeling like they don't want to hear about it, feeling like it's not the right place to talk about it.
Number one, overstudying and spending too much time in isolation when I could have been around non-Christians and building relationships and sharing Jesus. Number two, of course, fearing rejection from my friends, people I knew, just with a lot of the time lots of awkwardness.
The main barriers for me are like that initial fear of rejection, and then misconceptions about people, kind of thinking before you talk to them that they're not going to want to listen.
So I did childhood studies at university, and then I did PGCE, and now I'm a teacher. Teaching can be used for mission, and I would love to be a missionary at some point. And education is needed all around the world, and teachers are needed, and so I think wherever I go, I could use my job, my skills to glorify God.
So I study modern languages, and language is like the heart of communication. So sharing the gospel with people in their heart language is always really powerful for them.
As a musician, using the gift that God's given me to worship, but also to create a platform and an opportunity to spread the good news to those who haven't heard it.
World mission, working with internationals, being a witness in a secular work environment.
So how can you use your degree for God? Number one, your skills will get you access to lots of different organisations and companies in the UK where not many other people can get a job, and those places will need faithful Christian witness in them. Number two, your skills will be valuable all over the world and often in places where the gospel is least reached, and that will be often countries where it's difficult to get a visa unless you have a job, and so that's where you can take your skills and share the gospel there. And number three, if you're an engineer, you're always welcome to come and join us on our projects in Ukraine.
Good, thank you.
Doing well.
All good.
Yeah, for me, I went to Logos Hope, to the ship, and I went as part of my engineering placement year. So I studied mechanical engineering, and I was just coming into my third year of my university course in that, and got the opportunity to go as part of my placement to work in the engine room, to volunteer in the engine room and work alongside the other engineers, which is aligned with my course, with my university course, to be able to share and to sort of serve God in that way, serve God in that engine room with my skills from that course. So.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I studied French and German at university, and along with that comes a year abroad. So for my third year, it's a bit of a sandwich year. So I did 5 months in Austria, working with immigrant families, and then 5 months in Paris. Again, part-time working with some immigrant women, and then part-time working in the short-term missions team.
That's great. Thanks. So, or Meg, so you both come back. Yeah. Can you what you got and how you
Yeah, so for me, I did a sort of mixture of studying and outreach. So in some ways it was a bit like being a student, but just being a student abroad. And in other ways I was going on some crazy adventures to faraway places and meeting people that you don't meet in a university setting. So that was really exciting and challenging, but it made me a lot less daunted to come back to uni and have to make a lot of friends because my friends had graduated. And I had some great training from OM. So I learned that actually re-assimilating into church culture coming back would be quite tricky. So yeah, I found community quickly, really was intentional about finding places to serve, just as I'd served when I was abroad. So in churches, like serving in the music team, in evangelism, sort of street evangelism. And then, yeah, it made the whole thing a lot easier and made that transition from a faraway place to normal uni life a lot easier.
I went to Moldova over the course of a few years, so just for short-term mission trips in between college and then starting uni, and then in between my first and second years of uni. And there in Moldova, I'd go with a team and go to different villages telling people about Jesus. It was a great time. And then coming back to uni, it was a bit different, but just to echo a little bit what Meg said, it actually kind of made it easier. It made me feel bolder to tell people about Jesus. I also saw the importance to be able to tell people about Jesus. There's so much freedom that we have in this country to be able to do so. So I was spurred on by that. And I think being in Moldova gave me a bigger view of God and how great God is, and a bigger view then of life and how important it is for people in Moldova to hear Jesus, but people right next to me, sat in a lecture hall next to me to hear about Jesus as well.
How you can use those skills back at uni. So from a personal perspective, since you've returned, how has your time abroad shaped your life day to day? Peter and Meg.
So for me,
it...
Go Peter, you go for it.
Sorry. For me, it sort of shaped how I kind of structure my days, how I first get into the Bible every day, and just that time that I had on the ship really showed me kind of the importance of my relationship with God a lot more, and just that the necessity to get into his word every day and the necessity to learn more about him every day. Also just in sharing with others now that I've got home. I've only just got home recently there, but just getting into Zoom calls and chatting to people, discipling others, even just through Zoom, as we can't meet up right now, being able to walk with others in accountability, as well as just walking in Bible studies. Through my university studies in final year now, I'm part of the CU and able to walk with small groups and run events with CU as well for the universities in Northern Ireland. So yeah, it's been great.
Awesome. Yeah, I would echo a lot of what Peter said about once you've lived in Christian community 24/7 in a foreign setting with foreign people, it really just changes you as a person. And yeah, I think you learn that your relationship with God affects every movement of your day, and it affects whether you're going to be grumpy with someone over breakfast or not. So you realise that you're very personally responsible for your faith. And then I guess when I came back, my friends said that I seemed a lot less phased by life. Because I found uni quite stressful, actually. It can become very busy when you want to get stuck into lots of different ministries, and you are given quite a lot of responsibility, and you can sometimes think that you are responsible for everyone's salvation. And on my year abroad, I realised that I really was not, that it's God that moves in people's lives, and I just have to be obedient. So I think realising that freedom to just like give it over to God and crack on with actually doing my uni work as well was really, I felt that like a real burden was lifted off me when I got back. So it was great.
That's amazing. Thanks, guys. So what advice do you have then, Chloe and Naomi, for anyone thinking about heading off and taking part in a missions trip?
So I would say two things. One of them really practical. Just write down everything that you're learning and write down everything that you're feeling, because I think so often it can be such a blur that you do the week or month or year or 10 years or whatever it is, and then you come back into your normal life, and then it's just really easy to forget the kind of journey you've been on. So I think, yeah, just write down everything you're feeling, just write down everything that you're learning as you go, so you've got a record of that. And then the other thing I'd say is don't underestimate the value of supporters. I definitely underestimated how involved my church was going to be. So I kind of talked to them about it before I went, talked to some of the leaders there, kind of got people involved. But I think, people supported in terms of praying, people supported financially. But I think the biggest surprise to me was how much I needed people's just friendship. Like I just needed to know that people hadn't forgotten me while I was there. And that'd be things like, people sending cards in the post, or that'd be people kind of messaging and saying, I prayed for this specifically because you mentioned it in your last prayer letter, or whatever it is. So yeah, I think just don't underestimate the value of having a good team of supporters around you.
Yes, I would say maybe three things that I was thinking of if you're going to go and do some mission work. Firstly, pray for overseas mission, pray for local mission. Next, be really involved in church and CU. Mission is right here where you are, where God has placed you. There's mission all around you. So be really involved in CU and church and get stuck in with things going on there with local evangelism. And then, go and do a short-term mission trip. Go and test the waters. See if God is calling you to overseas mission. A short-term, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 months even, is a really good way to be able to test the waters. And then go back, and that gives you an opportunity to see what overseas mission is like, and if it's something in which God is calling you to do.
Some great advice there. Thank you, guys. And finally, can you briefly tell us something about the people that you met and were living amongst, and how we can pray for them?
Yeah, so people I was working with were mostly women, sometimes their children as well, but mostly women rather than men. But I was working with a lot of women from Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Syria. So praying for them, I think, again, really practically, a lot of them were immigrants that didn't have their kind of status sorted, so they were waiting for paperwork to come through, or just kind of in this place where they didn't know if they could stay, how long they could stay, if they'd be moving, kind of what was going on. So just for that stability for them. But a lot of them also Muslim background, so had this idea of, knew about religion, knew about God, even knew about Jesus. But I guess just praying for them and praying for the team still out there, just to make that last jump then between it being head knowledge and something that actually becomes really attractive to them.
Yeah, in Eastern Europe and in across Eurasia, that it's obviously being hit quite hard by coronavirus at the moment, and something that I noticed when I was there was that people really are quite fearful, both about their health and also that really affects they view God. So religion is quite based, and it's a lot of like piety or apathy. So yeah, I think just really praying that for God's love to cast out fear across that whole region. You'll have seen in the news that there's quite a lot of unrest politically in Eastern Europe, and I think for God to just be at work, emboldening people. Just any prayers to do with that would be great.
So I was in Moldova, and the religion there is Orthodox Christian, which actually could make it very difficult to tell people about Jesus, because similar to what Chloe was saying, a lot of it was head knowledge, and you go and pay the priest to pray for you. But pray first and foremost that many people will come to know Jesus, that, like Chloe said, that it would go from being head knowledge and a way of life to actually heart knowledge and accepting Jesus as their Lord and Saviour. Pray for them as it's wintertime, coming into wintertime. It gets really cold in Moldova, and this is the poorest country in Europe, and they get hit really hard. Since communism was disbanded from Moldova, this country's been hit really hard, and it means that many families have to seek work elsewhere, leaving a lot of the older folk and children very vulnerable. So pray for them during wintertime. And pray for the team there. Pray as they seek to get aid into these communities. It's really hard, particularly with COVID. Now, they've been really hit hard by COVID, but are going to have to continue to work in the villages just because they need to work to eat. So pray for them in regards to that as well.
Yeah, for me, I met countless amounts of people over this year. Going from Brazil through into the Caribbean, but one of the last places we were in was Abaco, which is just off the coast of, it's part of the Bahamas. It's one of the islands of the Bahamas, and it was just hit by a hurricane about 1 year ago there, and still is mostly flattened. There are still houses with roofs off them. Their houses are gutted out. I spoke to people and heard their testimonies. Some people who have lost family members, and just countless amounts of possessions just completely destroyed. What was great to see was the church's faith in Jesus in this time, and the faith in God in this time, for him to still provide even through this time. But just continue to pray for just there's such a need there, and there's still people on the island. There's like a lot of Christians on the island, but still a lot of non-Christians there, and just pray for the gospel to reach them, and that hope in such a difficult time to reach them as well. And just pray for the work that is continuing on there. A team just went out today, actually is probably only just going out right now into that island for 2 more weeks to do a bit more construction work. So please just pray for that team. Pray for the unity amongst the ship as well, in a really difficult time as well. Unity is something we really strive for on the ship, and just, pray for that as well. Thank you.
Can all take away and pray for. And thank you to everybody that has joined us this evening. That's all we've got time for tonight, I'm afraid. And if we didn't get to your question, then we are sorry.
Yeah, thank you. So many great things to be praying for that these guys have highlighted. Thank you for joining us and giving us inspiration to pray. So wherever you guys are just now, so you guys are more than welcome to take the time now just to pray out loud wherever you are, write a prayer, or just take these points into your week. But why don't we pray now before we finish? Yeah.
Father, I just thank you for this amazing group of guys that have
relatively ordinary lives, but they have chosen to live them for you and be part of your
ordinary plan. I thank you just for their willingness
to go and seek people that don't know who you are and live their lives amongst them as part of their university course and degree. I pray as well for the great needs that they have shared as well. The physical needs, communities that are impoverished or struggling with the realities of this world. And with that, we also just pray for their spiritual needs, that the opportunity to have been exposed to Jesus and the love that he brings, we thank you for that. And we pray for the teams these guys have left behind that have no doubt been encouraged by the people, these guys that have been with them, that have given them a great catalyst and into the communities, and just to know that there are people here back in the UK praying and standing alongside them as well. And I pray for everyone at home just now too, that wherever they're at in their living a life for you, that perhaps we've been able just to be a timely interruption into their life as they seek how to live for you. In your name, as we go home and get through our week. Amen.